All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever RosterLock podcast. I am joined with my co-partners, co-hosts, Cam and Lucas. Guys, how are you doing?
Oh, just hanging in there, just making the best of it in this world of COVID-19.
Hey, man, it's the end of a Wednesday. We're over that hump. Ready to get it the rest of the week.
So, as I said, this is the first ever RosterLock podcast, kind of letting the audience know what we've been up to, looking at DFS lineups, kind of getting our way back into when sports start back up again. You guys want to touch base on that, kind of what we're working on ourselves?
Yeah, personally right now, I am really sweating PGA DFS. It's something that I just started playing not too long ago, and I saw some really good success. But man, they did not tell me how anxiety-filled that DFS sport is.
For those of you who don't know, Cam usually up till 2 a.m., 3 a.m. every night. The last PGA Tour last weekend exhausted him so much, gave him so much anxiety. He went to bed at 9 p.m. and slept a whole 12 hours.
Yes, 9 p.m. on that Sunday when the tournament was over. I had to get off the computer, couldn't look at anything else, and had to go to sleep. It was a sweat. I was yelling at my screen for 4 days, yelling, fight, so my golfers can make the cut. Luckily, got 6 of 6, and we walked out of there with some good profit.
Hey, with what you just said, this is a good time to bring up. This is the RosterLock podcast presented by Budget Slates. Now with this exclusive offer, you can go to budgetslates.com and claim your free premium week pass, giving you full access to member upgrades such as main slates. And this free offer is for a limited time, so make sure you claim yours by 7:30, the start of these NBA games. And with that being said, I know someone who's dipped into DFS for the last couple of years myself, and I know you can speak on this too, Cam, which you just brought up. I had some good success, some in the money runs, some just missing the money runs. If I had some access such as budget slates to improve my lineups, I know without a doubt that I would have had an increased amount payday. And just for you, coming off that PGA, think of how easier it would be to set your lineups if you had a tool such as budget slates.
Yeah, when I first started playing DFS, I was always a guy, excuse me, I was always a guy that wanted to pick the name I knew. Pick the guy. I want to go get LeBron James or go get a Tiger Woods or Tom Brady. But that doesn't always work, especially in this game. It's something that you need to do research for, and that's what we do for you on Budget Slates. We'll give you a main slate, the guys who we think, so the top 9 guys or 6 guys for PJ, for example, and then we'll give you a player pool. We want you to have the players at your disposal to make the best lineup that you can while also using ours. And that's the way we'll get better, and that's the way you'll make more money. So go over there and visit the site. Check it out. If you have any questions, you can follow us on Twitter, Budget Slates. You can follow us our RosterLock podcast or RosterLock Pod Twitter. You can go catch us over there on Facebook. It's Budget Slates over there as well. So we're always available. We're always looking at that type of stuff. So just come over, give us a shout, and let's start winning some money.
Hell yes, that's what I'm talking about. Let's get into our first segment here on this first podcast where we're covering the resume of the NBA season, starting off with these 8 games and then going right into the playoffs. We're going to do a little bit buy or sell. So Cam and Lucas, what 2 players are you expecting big fantasy numbers through these first 8 games?
You got it, Lucas.
It's a good question. And doing a little bit of research here and looking at the first 8 games, kind of considering the impact of it. I think my first choice, or my number 1 is going to be Zion Williamson. And I think a lot of that comes down to a few things. One, before the NBA season was canceled and all this COVID stuff happened, you look at his last games heading into that break. Zion was putting up some pretty crazy numbers. I think he was averaging like 24.2 points a game, shooting well over 50% in all those games, averaging a little over 7 rebounds a game and 1 block a game. He was coming off of health issues, I think he's a little overweight. And it was his first time in the NBA. Like the dude was snapping. Now that he's had a little time, I think some nerves will calm down. I've seen that he's pretty healthy. He looks well rested. It looked like he lost some weight. And most importantly, I think a determining factor that Cam and I have talked about and why we think these guys will be big numbers is the Pelicans are fighting for a playoff spot. Like you look at some of the big name people, whether it's Kawhi, whether it's LeBron, whoever, they've got playoff spots locked up. We may not see all the usual minutes from those guys. So a combination of his numbers, I think he's coming into form. He's healthy, and the Pelicans are going to have to really sweat their ass off to get in the playoffs. I think that's why he's my number one pick to look at. I know it's kind of a big name, but that's what I'm expecting.
For sure, there's definitely room to grow there. I did just see that he's planning on rejoining the team anytime now. Is getting tested on a daily basis, so that is definitely encouraging news for people of Zion fans and also just people trying to get those fantasy points.
Cam?
Yes, I agree with you. I believe Zion will be an impact. He is a very impactful player in the 30, 40 odd games he played. I mean, that's why he's in the Rookie of the Year discussions that we'll get to later. But the number one guy for me is Damian Lillard. It is Dame time. That is what this dude is about. Before he got hurt earlier this year, right before the All-Star break, he was on an absolute tear. In the 14 games that he was playing, this dude was averaging 38 minutes a game with over 51 fantasy FanDuel points a game. For 2 weeks straight, this dude was lighting up the scoreboards. 4 of those games, he had 70-plus points. That's just unheard of. The 4 games after he got back from injury before the stoppage, he was at some decent numbers, 35 minutes getting into it, but he was still averaging 40 fantasy points a game, I'm sorry. This dude has to shoot the ball. Yes, they have CJ McCollum. They have Hassan Whiteside, Carmelo Anthony, Trevor Ariza. They have some guys. They have some veterans. But they're 3.5 games back right now. Like Lucas said, these guys are fighting for a playoff spot. They're fighting against the Pelicans for the playoff spot. They have a really good chance with the young Grizzlies in front of them holding the 8th seed. If they're going to make it, they're going to make it because Damian Lillard puts them there. This dude is as advertised. He's one of the best players. He is on the cover of NBA 2K21 that's getting ready to come out. He's the real deal. And you need to get on him before he gets the chalk. Starting off early in the season, you're going to have guys like Westbrook and Luka that are going to get the ownership at the beginning of the season. Get Dame while you can, while he's hot, and watch him win you some money over these next 8 games.
Yeah, to go on your point a little bit further, I think just for the team, like you said, they need him. Kind of like the old school James Harden Rockets teams when he was basically their only player, their go-to. I feel like Dame's kind of similar where, he needs to be the man on that team or there just isn't a team.
I will agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. And is Jokic coming back for this? Have they confirmed?
Oh, I have.
That could definitely help out Dame. I heard there was it was potential, so that could definitely help out Dame a lot as well.
Yeah, honestly, at the day of this recording, I haven't heard much about Jokic, but with that, I mean, they have Hassan Whiteside. They have the pieces, but he's got to put up the points. He's got to do everything. I see him playing 40 minutes a game over these next 8 games. There's nothing to hold on to. You had 3 months off. You have no injuries. You're coming in good shape. It's just put up or shut up time. And Dame is he's about that life. He's a walking bucket.
All right, let's get into you guys' second picks.
Cam, if you want to continue.
Yeah, my second pick, I went with another New Orleans Pelican. I didn't go with Zion, but I did go with Lonzo Ball. Mr. Do-It-All himself for the New Orleans Pelicans. My goodness. This guy is 6'7", plays point guard. He can guard multiple positions. He can rebound, get assists. He can put the ball in the bucket. He's had some shooting slumps, but his shooting form is definitely gotten better. But the reason why I'm going with Lonzo is that when he plays with Zion on the court, he is averaging 1.2 fantasy points per minute. He fills up the stat sheet, and that's what you want. You want a guy that's going to get you 6 rebounds, that's going to get you a couple steals or some blocks, and get you some assists. He isn't going to be a guy that's scoring dependent. And when you're not shooting the ball well, you need someone that's going to get you points regardless. Like I said earlier, you got the guys at Luka and Westbrook and Harden and those star point guards in the league, Chris Paul. People are going to overlook Lonzo. They're not going to go his way. He's going to be in that cheap range, the affordable range to give you leverage over the field. So really focus on getting him, because before the stoppage, he was averaging 36 minutes a game. Alvin Gentry finally set his rotation and let Lonzo play in the fourth quarter. And he was averaging 46 fantasy points a game over that time span before the stoppage happened. Those are really good numbers. Those are elite point guard numbers that you're getting at a median price. So if you're looking for leverage over the field, I would say go with Lonzo. And one more point before I shoot it over there to Lucas. We're playing a schedule with this restart that is 14 days of Christmas-like schedule. These guys are going to be playing at 1:30 in the afternoon all the way up to 9 p.m., depending on what time slot they have. Lonzo is, 24, 3 years in the league. He can just wake up and get in the gym and start dunking on people. He doesn't need to stretch. He's not going to have those, I don't feel good days like some of the vets might have. This New Orleans Pelicans are going to be excuse me, are going to be a force to be reckoned with. And I think Lonzo is going to be a big part of that.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see him in a lot of people's lineups, especially with this first week or two slate of games. Definitely a great value pick there.
I totally agree. Yeah. Especially like the stat of with Zion in the game, the 1.2 fantasy points per minute. Because I expect, kind of similar to my last point I made, of having to fight for a playoff spot, and the combination of their youth, they're going to be out there, every minute that they can. So that's pretty huge. No, that's good. I put Devin Booker for this. I know he's about a middle of the road, like average value person on the DFS side. But a combination of things here. One, playing pretty well before the break came. I know that we talk about that a lot, and maybe that was 4 months ago, and may not mean a lot. That's a lot of time in between. But from a stats perspective, averaging 27.5 a game in his last four, almost 10 assists a game, 9.7, so almost averaging a double. And plus he had a couple games in there with a block or two. So filling up a stat sheet there. Another team that I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but they're going to be fighting. Some of these small teams know this is an unusual time. And if you've played sports, if you're that underdog and you get that scent of, you really got a fighting chance. They've got some healthy players back. Kaminsky's back. I think things could align for him to pop off. And then mainly because if you look at their schedule, they have one of the easiest schedules of all the teams. I think of their 8 games, 4 or 5 of them are all from the Eastern Conference. Even starting off with the Wizards, I think he has a favorable schedule to pop off of some good games while being at that average DFS value.
Yeah, you bring up kind of that middle of the pack. I mean, that's definitely what we're looking for. We're looking for good value, which hopefully you can take one of those guys, get value at a higher price, and that way clear your budget for a more expensive big name guy.
Exactly. I mean, Devin Booker's a walking bucket. That dude can fill it up. 70 points in the game before. Real life points in the game. I mean, not too many people have done that. So he is definitely always on the radar and an option to play.
Yes, so we're going to get into more of that next week as we get closer to the games, kind of give out our player pool and get more into the actual DFS lineups. But going to the other side of that argument, what 2 players, perhaps big names, are we expecting either a bust or a letdown in these at least first 8 games?
Oh, I got to go first. Lucas is going to love this. I've been waiting for this moment. I've been waiting for this podcast for this moment. My number one guy is LeBron James. Woo! LeBron James is going to bust, quote unquote, in these
big
8
words
games.
From Cam here.
Yeah. I mean,
fighting words.
Yes. Let me start off though. LeBron James is no in the sense of the word bust. He is not a bust by any means.
Right. We're looking at fantasy points here.
Yes. Looking at fantasy points, I mean, let me ask you, Lucas, what does he have to play for?
That's a great point.
What year is he in?
About 17?
Yeah, year 17. I'm sorry. There's no home court advantage. He's in year 17. He has a 5.5 game lead up on the Clippers right now, and it's 8 games. We've seen when he was in Cleveland, he didn't care if he was the 1st seed or the 4th seed. He knows that if you get into the NBA Finals, you have to go through LeBron James, and he's okay with that. When he's on the court, he feels he's the best player on the court, and there's not anyone that could say any different right now. So to me, I don't feel like LeBron cares about this 8-game season. He's going to go in there, sharpen his skills. He might play his 28 to 32 minutes and get on out of there. During the season, he was averaging 34.5 minutes a game. He wasn't playing a lot. Yeah, he gave you a lot of points, and he's always a good fantasy producer. But when you're looking at paying at the top of the price range for a guy that's only going to give you 28 to 32 minutes a night, I'm sorry. Minutes equals money in NBA DFS, and that's just not going to get it done. Now,
Totally.
when you have all, what are you saying? I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Not with all these players that have something to fight for, that have to play for something. Well, you're going to play a guy that's only going to give you a quarter of a game or half a game. I don't want it. I'm going to be off of that. He's going to get a lot of ownership because of the new people coming in for DFS. And I say we get off of him early and we go somewhere else, more like a Brandon Ingram type who has to fight for something, or one of those younger guys that want to make a name for themselves, like Jason Tatum and such.
Yeah, definitely. He's going to be at one of the highest paid players to pick. He does have coming off a 5-month rest almost, but to your point exactly, he's probably looking towards the playoffs instead of these 8-game slates.
Playoffs?
All right, who we got for our next
No,
pick?
I totally agree with you, Cam, there on I mean, obviously, diehard Braun fan, Braun sexual, as some would call it. But no, I mean, it makes sense. I would say that, obviously this is a really extraordinary case. This is unprecedented, right? We've never seen this. I mean, to counter that a little bit, Braun has never been really like a guy to take too many minutes off. It seems like to a fault. I think that's one thing, people who are fans of him or people who have faulted the coaches for is there's sometimes Braun's playing 40 minutes a game when he has no need doing it.
You're exactly right.
But you're right. For fantasy, right now with it's weird times. We don't know what's going to happen. If he's for the money, I don't think he's worth it either. Which is why I'm going to mirror this. I think I'm going to mirror it with Giannis for the same reason. However, I could see Giannis still playing a little bit more. He's a little younger, right? He's still in his prime, but the Bucks have such an easy lock on their playoff spots, and even, I mean, almost a sure lock on the top spot. That for the same reasons, I could see, with as much money as Giannis is going to cost, I see there being, definitely more value elsewhere. And the same things that you said, people who, whether it's people we mentioned earlier with Dame and Zion and Lonzo or whoever, I think there's people who are going to add more value knowing they're going to play more minutes, like someone like a Chris Middleton on the Bucks.
Now, for the listeners trying to make their lineups, are you saying that he's going to have a little bit of ring rust per se, or do you think the minutes are going to be down?
For Giannis, I think there's a good chance of his minutes being down for the same reason that Cam mentioned LeBron. They got a for sure spot in the playoffs, if not a for sure top spot locked. That any given night, if you're going to be paying top money for him, and he could sit, play 20 to 25 minutes or whatever it may be. That's why I'm choosing Giannis as well.
Yes, you're right.
They
have a 6.5 game lead. Sorry, man. They have a 6.5 game lead. They really don't have much to play for. I think you're dead on that point. I think Giannis doesn't play a lot of minutes. So
just to back up what
up
what you guys are saying, we're not saying they're going to put up bad fantasy numbers per se. We're saying that at the price per that player, the efficiency is not going to be there as opposed to some of the other players.
Yep.
Exactly, I agree.
All right, who do you guys have for your second slates of players to watch out for in the negative aspect?
Cam, I'll let you take this one. I didn't have a clear cut bust that came to mind for me for another one. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of answers, but I'll let you take this one, Cam.
I didn't. Excuse me. I didn't have one either, per se, but I did go with a guy in Marcus Smart. If you're playing NBA DFS, you knew for about a week Marcus Smart was just the value play of all value plays. They weren't pricing him up high. Kemba was out. He was getting all the minutes. First team, second team, he was just doing it all. Well, go to the stoppage 3 months later for the restart. Kemba's back. He's healthy. He's ready to go. And with Kemba, Tatum, Brown, and Hayward on the court, Marcus Smart's usage goes down by like 4%. He's at an 18% usage percentage. He's only averaging 0.9 fantasy points per minute. He is the loser when Kemba comes back and is on the court. When he's off the court, he's over a 1 fantasy point per minute guy, and he gets a 22% usage bump. He's up 22% of usage. So you can see that he definitely takes a step back with Kemba in the court. Sorry. Also, he is a guy that can fill it up on rebounds and steals and things like that, but he's not going to have the ball in his hands. He's not the primary ball handler. So I'm thinking that people are going to be on him early. The pricing is going to be somewhat high on him because there's not so many backup point guards that you can get at that range to fit in your lineups. So always just be wary of Marcus Smart. I don't think he's going to have a great restart in fantasy production wise. I'm sure he'll be fine for the season. The Celtics are a great team, but when you need a guy to get you points so you can win, I don't think he's going to be the way you want to go.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's
across
great
the board.
information, guys. Definitely use that as we're looking to make these lineups next week. Going off that point, let's go into our second topic here, and that's early trends to watch for in these first couple slate of games, because as we brought up earlier, this is kind of unprecedented times. Definitely never seen anything like this. So with everything in consideration, such as no fans, no home court advantage, what are we basically looking for in these first couple games, kind of to gauge how the rest of the season's going, so we can better make up our lineups with better insight as to these games are not necessarily the games that we saw in previous years or even this season?
I liked your points you had, Lucas, so I'll let you lead here.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you want to go at it from looking at the very first game, right? I think the obvious answer is rust. Who's going to be able to shake out the rust? There hasn't been, no basketball in 4 months, but let alone a lot of physical activity. I know these guys keep working out, daily, but working out and practicing and playing a full game are completely different. So I think that rust first is going to set a strong precedent just for those first couple games, specifically these first 8. But some important things. One, no home court advantage, no crowd hype. Sometimes I think the home court advantage argument is a little, oversold, or people put too much value into that. But I think it's going to be a big thing just from the fact of no crowd. Just from playing basketball with the sceneries in the background, these dropbacks are huge for shooters. So interested to see how they react. Right, basketball is a game of runs. Right, down 20, up 20, tying it. When there's no crowd hyping you up, those runs can become easier or harder to defend, whichever team you're on.
These teams are going to have to make their own energy, right? There's going to be
exactly. Which is why it kind of leads to my. Oh, sorry, Mac.
No, go. You're good.
Oh, it kind of ties into the next point of bringing your own energy, knowing how to handle that, right? I think it's veteran experience. From two things, right? Someone like LeBron, normally when he's in the playoffs, he's 80 games down, and he's been playing all these minutes. By the time he gets, you've seen in the past, by the time he gets to the finals and plays the Warriors, he's gone through multiple 5, 6 game, 7 game series. I mean, the dude is just worn. now he's had 4 months of rest, going to be playing these 8 games as we think, maybe less minutes. He's a full Braun, a fully healthy Braun in the playoffs is something that we've never seen. So that's something to look forward to. And then the other thing from veteran experience, right, is how are these young guys? You look at somebody like the Pelicans, right? A lot of young dudes on there. How are they going to handle this weird setting from no crowd, no energy to can we even trust them be in the bubble and not break containment for
that's a good point.
That's the most important thing,
right? Like there's a lot of like aside from the game, all of a sudden, Zion goes out to get McDonald's at 12 o'clock on a Thursday night and he can't play.
I mean, wasn't there a dude that left the bubble to go get some Grubhub and then got kicked out of it? Like, yeah, I think you make a very valid point there.
So I think that
I'm sorry.
I was just going to finish with, I think the veteran experience to me is going to be the most important for maturity. They don't have the fatigue. They're going to be able to handle the teams the best. And that's my thoughts.
Going off your first point, I think the rust a little bit, not necessarily the big names, but maybe like the semi-stars who are budgeted to be a higher pick. Maybe they have that rust and then their price drops a little bit, right? And we can monitor that. And once it drops, maybe they get the rust out and then it'd be a good time to buy in your lineups for like a week or two out.
For sure. Always. I mean, that's the most important thing is form. You always want to keep an eye on people's form, the pace of play. And these guys are professional athletes. Yes, they may get in a slump, but they're going to get out of it. Be the guy that can see that ahead of time and you'll be golden. But to go on to what Lucas was saying, he made very valid points. I mean, I couldn't say it better myself. The only thing I would add to that would be the schedule. We have 14 days and they are playing every other day for the next 14 days. Their games range from 1:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. When is the last time that these guys have played a game at 1:30 p.m. that is not on Christmas Day? It hardly ever happens. That pushes up your shoot around. That pushes up when you get up to get out to go eat breakfast and get moving around, treatment in the training room. This is going to be a shock to them. They're not going to be with their families. They're not going to be able to unwind per se. Quite frankly, they might get fed up with their own teammates being around them all the time. I get fed up with you guys and we're just in Discord. So I can't even imagine. But I think everything you said is very important, especially the point on veteran leadership and knowing that this is about business. This is a business trip. This is about getting the trophy. And some of the young guys might just be there just to get the Grubhub.
Yeah, especially when you say, waking up early for those early games, that impacts your night the night before.
Exactly. I know some of these guys, when they're coming into the bubble, you see them walking in with Xboxes, PlayStations. They might be up all night because they have nothing else to do. Now, they are professional athletes, and they would do what they have to do to get ready for the games. But heck, I want to play video games all night. Mm-hmm. Y'all want to play video games all night. It just happens. We know when to go to sleep, but some nights you might not be able to. You might be on that 2-3 win streak in Warzone, and you're like, oh, I gotta keep it going. Can't get off until we lose.
I was going to say, do we know when to get off?
Never.
No, but I agree. I mean, you see, like, I can't count the times I've seen Josh Hart streaming, while he's been in the bubble already. Now, you're right. I think they're professionals and they are going to know when to shut that off and when not to. But I don't know, man. These are weird times. People are in weird mental states. I think that's going to be a huge thing, is that veteran thing. And like, you see people like LeBron, you see people like Russ, like those guys can bring the energy. They may not need the crowd to do it.
Yeah,
exactly. One more thing, sorry, Mac, before we go to the next one, would be COVID-19. What's going to happen? You get COVID, you have to sit out 14 days mandatory. That's the 8-game season right there. If you get COVID early, you're not playing in it. You get COVID during the playoffs, they're not going to stop the playoffs for you. So that is something very important that we need to keep our eye on, because we don't really know anything about this disease still to this day, and how it's transmitted per se. Like, can we play the sports even if we clean everything down, wear our masks, everything we need to do? So that is something very important we need to keep our eye on, because if you get it, you're basically done for the rest of the season.
Yeah, great points, guys. I mean,
great obvious point.
Yeah, I mean,
so we forgot about
it's definitely going to be a kind of observation of how things are going to happen, just because we've never been in this kind of situation before. Okay, let's go a little bit of predictions here. 7-8 seeds each conference. Who do you guys got?
Well, I'll take this.
I think we're on the same page here, Cam.
Yeah, I think we're pretty on the same page, like you said. First one I would say out of the Eastern Conference would be the Nets and the Magic. I think the Magic are going to get the 7th seed, and the Nets are going to get the 8th seed. I don't think Washington's even got a shot. They're going there with a bunch of replacement players.
Mm-hmm.
Like Bradley Beal's not playing, John Wall's not playing, and if those guys aren't playing, I don't even want to talk about the rest of the Wizards roster. They're already like 5.5 out. That means they basically have to win every game, and they don't have their 2 stars. Yeah, it's over with.
Heck, I don't even know who's on the Wizards rosters besides them.
Me either. And I look at the stats. I have no idea.
Well, that's why it kind of ties back to our beginning point of Devin Booker game 1 against a Wizards team with the JUCO players. Some things to keep in mind.
Oh, for sure. What I was saying about the Magic in the 7th seed is the same thing for the Nets. I don't think they're going to get caught by anybody, so their spot is secure in the 8th seed to me. But Dinwiddie's not playing. DeAndre Jordan's not playing.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Durant nor Kyrie Irving are coming back. So Karis LeVert's got to shoot 100 shots a game just for them to even be there, to even get points on the board in my eyes. And I just don't think they'll have enough. But they'll make the playoffs. The Magic are a really good team. They got Aaron Gordon, Vucic, Fultz, Fournier. They got guys that can ball. They were on a good run before the stoppage. I think they keep it going. And that's where I'm at with that. What do you think, Lucas?
Totally agree. Right. I think and the sad part is when I first saw this subject and talking about it, and I saw Nets Magic, and I was like, there's no way. Like, there's got to be someone else. And, I started looking, I was like, there's literally only one team can't make it. So it's just going to be the worst of the worst. I think that's it. I think maybe it's going to be between the Nets and the Wizards, but I agree. It's the Magic at 7 and the Nets at 8. Either one of those teams is going to get absolutely destroyed by the Bucks or the Celtics. So, I'm in total agreement with you. I really got not much else to add for the Eastern Conference.
Probably
there.
A little bit more interesting. What do you guys got for the Western Conference?
You want to go there?
I'll go. Yeah. I think we both agree with the Mavs at the 7. I think they're going to be with Luka and everyone. I mean, I think they're the easy of the options.
Or Zingard.
Yeah, they're going to be good. And I think if they don't make it, I would be very surprised. I would almost put them as a lock for me personally.
It would have to be an implosion.
It's either that or leading into my next point. I think this 8th seed is going to be really interesting. I know the Grizz got it now, and I love the Grizz. I love Ja. They got young talent, but I think they're too young. I mean, they're super young. This is a weird experience. We touched on the veteran experience and everything. However, I think the Grizzlies are one of those teams that they've beat the best of the best this year, and they've beaten them easily. They've lost bad games. And talking about this with you earlier, Cam, just like offline, it's a weird time, right? An 8-game playoff, anything can happen. You look at stretches during the season, even the worst of the worst teams, the Bulls, can make an 8-game like winning streak or, just a good 8-game streak. It's really going to be interesting to see who makes that. I do agree in the end. I think that the Trailblazers hit the 8th and final spot. However, my sleeper pick or my second pick for that 8th spot would be the Pelicans. They were cooking on all cylinders before the break. I know there's a lot of time in between, but man, with Zion and that squad, they got a pretty good squad, and they can definitely come in and grab that 8th spot if the Trailblazers aren't careful.
Yeah, I agree. Same teams as you. I'm a little bit different on the 7th seed because the Mavs are making the playoffs. If everything was to go today, the Mavs would be in 7th seed and the Trailblazers would be in the 8th seed for me. But right now, it's very interesting for that 7th seed because the Mavs are 7 games up on 8th place. They have that's done for.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is in the 4th seed through the 7th seed, there's only 2.5 games separating all those teams. So they're jockeying for position. This is position where you can avoid the likes of the Lakers or avoid the likes of the Clippers, depending on what you want. So the Mavs have something to play for, and they can get all the way up. They get hot early. They can get all the way up to the 3rd seed or the 4th seed, and then be 2 games behind the 3rd seed. They have a really good opportunity here, but they're locked for me to get in the playoffs, 7th seed or not. I'm with you on the 8th seed as well. It's Dame time, like I was saying earlier.
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
Good. No, I was just agreeing with you.
This guy has been in the Western Conference Finals. He has hit big shots. I mean, just last year, he sent Paul George and them boys home from OKC, waving them off the court. I mean, this dude is clutch. He is built for this time. The playoffs are his time. And I think with the veterans of Carmelo Anthony and CJ McCollum and Dame and Whiteside, I think they'll get the job done. The Grizzlies are just too young. They're a great team. They are very exciting to watch. Ja Morant almost jumping over Kevin Love was one of my favorite highlights ever. I wish he would have finished the dunk. They are exciting, but they just don't have what I like to use the word as gumption to get the job done at the end of the day. And the Pelicans, they're almost in the same atmosphere as the Grizzlies for me. They have great players. I think they have better players than the Grizzlies, but they're still young, and they've blown big leads after big leads to close out games. They don't make free throws. Zion can't be on the court at the end of the game because he can't shoot free throws. Lonzo can't shoot free throws. That really hurts them. That's 2 of their top players. You have to get a closer, and Brandon Ingram is close, but he's just not there yet. So I think the Trailblazers get the 8th. Mavs finish somewhere in the playoffs, so let's just say 7th, and the Grizzlies and Pelicans are looking out.
Yeah, I would love to see another meme of Dame time putting the nail in a coffin to a team. That was great. Let's go to the other side of things. So this isn't who we think are going to miss the playoffs, but who's like a top seed, maybe 3 to 4 seed that we are at risk going into the playoffs. So, they could lose round 1, maybe a 3 or 4 seed.
Yeah, I'll take the lead. Going into my other point, or my last point, the Utah Jazz, they're holding the 4th seed right now. They are 2.5 games up on the Mavericks, one game up on the Rockets and Thunder. Right now, my question is, what is their chemistry like? Do we remember when Rudy Gobert was being a child and rubbing the mic and touching everybody, saying, "What's COVID? There's nothing. COVID's not real." And then Donovan Mitchell got COVID the next day, and they shut down the league because Rudy Gobert tested positive.
How bad that looks right now, right?
Exactly. Like, where are they at as a team? Because to me, that would stick with me. I would still be salty about that. Like, you just gave me something that we have no idea about, and you thought it was a game. Like, you're coming in my stuff, touching everything. So we don't know where the chemistry is. And also, is the Jazz, I just don't think they're a very good team. They're good enough to be in the playoffs, but they aren't a team that's like, oh, if I see the Jazz in the series, I'm going to be nervous. I really got to scout against them. They play one way. It's Rudy Gobert on the court. They play traditional basketball. They can't play small. Rudy Gobert fouls everybody. Donovan Mitchell's good, but he can't do it by himself. Michael Conley, it ain't the Mike Conley of the Grizzly days. So I just don't think the Jazz got it. I think they fall down to the 7th seed, and everyone else moves up, but they can very well prove me wrong. What do you got, Lucas?
Yeah, I agree. I think Conley could be that veteran presence and experience they need for this. But yeah, I think Jazz. I also think, and this is almost because this is a question mark, I want to look at the Rockets just because of the health issues. If there's so many questions with COVID, if COVID is what it is, if it's as bad or half as bad, whatever, how was Westbrook affected by this? From a conditioning standpoint to how long does it last, to like what are the side effects? I don't know. It's just something that I feel like with their notoriety and how good they can be, there's a lot of questions. Just aside from, I think the Jazz, I would go with the Jazz as my team too, but a fun answer or look at this would be the Rockets, just because one, and I think James Harden will choke in the playoffs like usual anyways, but that's another.
No, you're right. I'm 100% with you on that one.
Yeah, so I think I'd just go Rockets here, just because a few question marks, whether it's Westbrook going to play, is he going to be fully healthy, like is Harden going to harden? I would go with the Rockets.
Missed 27 straight threes to lose to Golden State Warriors.
Trash. And okay, how that's even possible. but Jazz, or sorry, but by Rockets for.
All right, we just worried about the Jazz, or we have another team we're worried about?
I got one more team. The 76ers. These guys have been injury ridden the whole year, feels like. And there's a narrative going on that they're going to trade Ben Simmons or Embiid and give the team to the other guy. Can they play together? Who knows? They've been hurt. They've been playing when the other person's been hurt out. They haven't played together in months. They come back now, and Embiid folded in the playoffs last year against the Raptors. Ben Simmons can't shoot a jump shot outside the block. Can they get the job done? I mean, right now, looking at it, while I pull it up, sorry.
I mean, not often we see their point guard go, yeah, I'm going to go start playing power forward, right? Usually not a secondary position for a point guard.
Right? Like the 76ers are really solid in the playoff race. They're in the playoffs. They already locked their spot in. But they have an identity crisis. And who knows what they have with Horford now, because he was tearing it up when they were both out. Now they're back, and will he go to a role where he's just standing in a corner? Shake Milton was playing really well. Ben Simmons is going to dribble the air out of the ball. Like, what's going to happen with this team? There's a lot of questions. I hope Coach Brown can get the job done for him, but I think they're in trouble. And if they can't get it done this year, I feel like they can't get it done at all. There's no LeBron. There's no Kawhi. They were close last year to making the final. Or did they make the final? I can't remember. I don't know if it was the second round or the final, but they did make the NBA finals. There's no top 3 player in the league stopping them. They have no excuses. I don't think they get it done. I think they're in trouble going in. You have to shoot in the playoffs, and they can't shoot.
It was the semis, if I remember right.
Yeah, because then they played the Bucks.
Was it the Bucks? Okay.
Well, yeah, the Raptors played the Bucks in the finals, right? Or in the Eastern Conference?
I just couldn't remember. All I remember is the shot that hit the rim 5 times. I don't remember what series it was.
Got anything to add to that, Lucas?
No, I think, the 76ers from the East side, Eastern Conference is definitely the answer, just because, but that's just what they're known for, right? There's always a huge question mark. Like, they had Jimmy Butler. That team was extremely talented. They're still talented. And I just don't, I have no words for the 76ers. They just leave me speechless, just because they're just not going to win.
I know. Shout out to my dad. That's his favorite team, but my goodness, couldn't be mine. They are heartbreakers.
Shout out to the dad. All right, guys, to finish up this segment, real quick, who do you got for your finals matchup? Go ahead, Cam.
Finals matchup. I'm going with the Celtics versus the Clippers. The Celtics, like I said, is a very wide open Eastern Conference, and they're just a good team. They can shoot the ball. There's no LeBron. There's no Kawhi this year. They got some young bulls over there. I think they get the job done. I'm not sold on Giannis when he can't shoot. He didn't have a good series against the Raptors last year. I think they lost 4-1 because he just couldn't get to the rim. Teams are going to pack the paint. The Celtics have one of the best coaches, Brad Stevens. I think this is their year. They punch through. And on the Clippers side, I'm a Lakers fan. I love the Lakers. but I just don't know what they have on the bench. Rondo broke his hand or whatever he did. He's out. I just don't know if they're deep enough over there. And the Clippers have 2 guys coming off the bench that average 18 points a game, and then they have 2 superstars. So what other team in the NBA has that? I don't see Golden State here. I don't see Kevin Durant in Golden State. So I think the Clips have a one-way shot to the NBA Finals. I mean, LeBron is goated. He can stop anybody.
What you got, Lucas?
He's gonna have to stop them.
Yeah. On my end, I'm going Bucks versus Lakers. So I don't know the Celtics. I don't think the Celtics have anyone that can stop Giannis by any means. I do love Brad Stevens, but I think he's a little overrated in the NBA. He's had a lot of questionable coaching series in the past couple years that I think I wouldn't say cost him games, but I think he's a little overhyped in my opinion. But I think it all comes down to I can't name anyone on the Celtics that can stop Giannis. I think Giannis' shot's getting better. It's going to be a fully rested and healthy Giannis. I mean, Chris Middleton, George Hill, all those dudes are playing well. I don't know. I don't see that. I see the Bucks skating to the finals personally, but I mean, obviously I guess the Celtics will be a little bit of competition, but to me, it's the Bucks on the Eastern Conference. They don't have someone like Kawhi that can stop Giannis. And that's basically what it came down to last year. I know it was and Pascal, but overall, definitely the Bucks for the East for me. And then I am going to go to the Lakers. I know, I'm a Bron fan, whatever. But again, touching from earlier, we've never seen a fully healthy Bron in the finals or in the playoffs in general. I think he's going to get his. I don't think anyone on the Clippers can stop AD. So I think it's going to come down to those support players, which I agree that the Clippers do have a little bit more there. But my Lord and Savior is back, baby. J.R. Smith.
Mr. Henny himself.
This is the sometimes I believe in a little bit of the sports conspiracies, and man, is an ESPN 30 for 30 in the works with this one, with JR coming back to redeem himself, a little salvation, little.
If you don't dribble the ball at the half court,
That's what I'm saying. I think he comes back for the redemption. He's got to save his legacy a little bit. We can't go out with that, JR. I don't know. I just think the Lakers, we're going to get a full, a full steam, no fatigue, no nothing. Bron, that team. I think Caruso is going to step up big. At least I hope so. I think ultimately it's going to come down to AD. And I just think AD is going to snap against the Clippers personally. But that series is going 7 for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to go Lakers. I just couldn't with the numbers in front of me. But yeah. LeBron's doing it for Kobe. Rest in peace to the great.
That's the last thing you want to touch on that storybook ending. It's Kobe's year.
Yeah, you know what, Cam? I don't care what you say. I think I am going with the Celtics Lakers. I think the NBA gods are going to sprinkle a little of that pixie dust on there, get that matchup that we all want. We haven't seen that.
Those ratings will be through the roof.
The historic matchup, right? We haven't seen this since the Kobe Paul Pierce threesome game, right?
They are 2 or 3 years, yes, but it was 1 game 6, 1 game 7, hell of a series.
All right, let's go into our kind of next segment here. Let's talk about awards. Now, this isn't actually part of these 8-game slates, but this is kind of for the previous, I guess, first half of the season. Let's talk about MVP. Who do you guys have? Go ahead, Lucas.
I think it's Bron. Obviously both of these are going to be included, right? The first half of the season and then this bubble.
No voting for the bubble.
Count.
Oh, they don't at all?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm still going to go with LeBron from the numbers, where they're at in the team. I think it's Bron, pretty plain and simple to me.
Yeah, it's LeBron, year 17. Enough said. Giannis is you can make a case for Giannis, but no shot. It's LeBron by landslide. What he did for this Lakers team, where they're at. If it's not LeBron, they need to get new voters.
Yeah, I'm actually going to agree with you guys on this. For LeBron, you could almost make the argument he could have won any year, right? But if he didn't win those multiple MVPs already,
except for Derrick Rose year,
kind of swing the voters whenever you already have a couple, right? But the numbers he puts up year in, year out, like he could make it'd be hard to argue against him.
I agree.
Yeah, looks like we're all pretty unanimous
All right,
there.
Cam, go ahead and lead this one. Rookie of the year. I think I know where you're going, but who do you got?
Oh man, I'm going with Ja Morant. These 8 games don't matter, and Ja Morant got his team here. If it wasn't for Ja, it wouldn't be no Memphis Grizzlies. I wouldn't even know they were a basketball team. I mean, these guys have fell off the face of the earth. And the award is Rookie of the Year. Zion is great, but that man has played 37 games or something like that. Ja Morant's been here from day one. He's been grinding, and he's got his team in the bubble at a chance for a playoff spot. I gotta go with Ja. What do you think, Lucas?
First of all, don't disrespect my boy Jaren Jackson like that on the Grizzlies. He's out here
trash.
Oh
no, I'm playing. He's not trash.
No, I did too. So I didn't know that the 8 games and stuff weren't considered. So I definitely think it's Ja as well. For the same reasons, right? He's really helped carry that Grizzlies team here. He's electric to watch. He's just putting up highlights after highlights. I did think at first if there was the 8 games after this that Zion would get it, just because I think that 4-month break, people aren't going to be as keen to remember all of Ja's highlights. And if Zion comes and snaps these 8 games and carries the Pelicans to the playoffs, I thought Zion was going to get it. But knowing that the bubble isn't included in this, or the 8 games, then it's definitely got to be Ja, because like you said, it's of the year, not of 2 months or 3 months, however long Zion played.
Yeah, good points, guys. Finish this podcast up. Let's go into our last segment here, and let me explain it a little bit. So, besides the top names, you got your LeBrons, your Giannis's, your ADs, whatever you want to have. Besides your top players, this bubble, this playoff, who has the potential to alter someone's legacy? And this could either be positive or negative. And I'm actually going to start this one off for you, and I want your feedback. I'm going to go with the Raptors. I'm going to go Pascal. So he was a pretty good key player last year in their run. What if he kind of becomes the key role player, becomes the man, and takes them not necessarily winning the finals, but back to the finals? How does that impact him? And secondly, could you see it happen realistically?
That's a great point. Well, I'll answer first, and yeah, that's an incredible point. If the Raptors ended up back in the finals, not even win it, if they end up back in the finals with Pascal is going to his legacy is going to skyrocket. Whether that's, it's going to be incredible to go through the Celtics, to go through Giannis, because if they beat the Bucks, it's going to be in large part due to Pascal and helping control Giannis. Someone I didn't think about, so that's a great person. I think it's going to skyrocket him into consideration to what, probably a top 10 player for sure, at least in consideration, or like a name on a list. Not saying that he will be a top 10 player, but a name that'll be thrown around.
Yeah, if he does that, Siakam does that, I mean, the sky's the limit for this guy. I mean, we didn't know him 2 years ago at all. Like, who was this guy? Last year, he showed up in the playoffs day in, day out. I mean, he gave the Warriors 30-piece in 3 quarters. This dude is the truth. If he makes it to the finals, he's done something that Lowry and DeRozan couldn't have done, and that hasn't happened since Kawhi got there. And I think it puts him in a whole new atmosphere of top players in the league. He can't be denied there. And Lucas is right. He will make some top 10 lists. That'll just be impressive. No one's really talking about the Raptors since Kawhi left, and he's just slowly got them up to the 2nd seed. And if he does that, he is one of the cream of the crops in the Eastern Conference for sure.
You heard
That's
it
a good one,
first.
Mac.
All right, Cam, what are your players you had on your list?
Yeah, I'm gonna make this quick, but I had Chris Paul for one of them. Chris Paul has been a guy that hasn't gotten out of the second round, has always been hurt, and all these things. Is a guy that can't get the job done. He got it done with James Harden, but they were saying it's because he was with James Harden, and he was hurt in that series against the Warriors where they lost, and it came back to the same narrative. Fast forward to this year, OKC wasn't supposed to be anywhere in the conversation. He catapulted them in the conversation. It shows how much of a leader he is and how much of a veteran presence he is in the locker room. This guy it's supposed to be a rebuilding year. He threw that out the window. So if he gets past the second round this year and he balls out, I think it really does a lot for his legacy. And he's only getting older, so he only has a couple more chances. He's got 3 months off, kind of like LeBron. He's never really been healthy going into the playoffs. There's no excuse this year. You got 3 months. You've been healthy. He's a pro's pro. He's kept his body in good shape. So I'm going with Chris Paul as my first guy.
That's a really good point there. I mean, they were supposed to be almost a lottery team, right? Like you said, this season was supposed to be a throwaway, and yet here they are. All right, Lucas,
yes,
who you got?
Yeah, I got two that I'm going to say here, and one question mark. I'm going to ask this at the end. So I think Jimmy Butler. If Jimmy Butler year in and year out, it's like, okay, he's an all-star. Was on the Bulls. They didn't really make it anywhere. Now they made it to the conference finals, I think, with him. Went to the Timberwolves with Wiggins and Cap. Still just kind of just middle of the pack. I know you hear the story of him taking the B squad and beating the starters. I mean, like, he's always been that.
Ran about the gym.
That dude, that badass, that savage. Goes to the Sixers and it's like, okay, you got Simmons, you got Embiid, like this is it. Like this is
you got the
time.
runners,
right? Nope, still doesn't do it. And constantly, it's kind of whether right or wrong. Won't get into that of him, not necessarily bagging on his team, but like, man, I want to be around people who win. I want to win. He's down in the Heat. If he pulled off something this playoffs and made it to the finals, and I would say even close to the Eastern Finals, depending on how he plays, a chance to greatly improve his legacy. With the risk of getting knocked out first round in this, everyone, it is an extraordinary year. It's weird, but he's someone who can really either greatly impact or I think have a negative as well.
He can catapult his name to the top player in the league if he shows up over these playoffs.
And then my other one that I thought was really interesting, just because how young he is, and you look back at some other people's histories, is Jason Tatum. Depending on what he puts up, what the Celtics do, this could be the year that 5-10 years we look back, and this is what boosts him into the stardom, the legacy, right? Like you look at LeBron when he put up the high number of games against the Celtics, or he took them to the finals, like that. Everyone knows that season, or those couple seasons, I guess, where it really put LeBron on the map, even more so than he already was, which sounds weird to say. But I think this could be that year for Tatum. We're like, okay, like we know he's good. We know he's great. Damn, this is that dude.
For sure. And one more thing I wanted to throw in there. The 76ers duo, just real quick. If they get first rounded or don't, in my eyes, don't make it to the NBA Finals, I think they scrap it. This is over with. Their legacy will be guys that just are regular season all-stars. They don't get the job done when it's going, it's tough.
Yeah. There's
no excuse. So I think the 76 duo of Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, this is going to be a turning point in their career, kind of like where Jason Tatum is, with this chance to really be like, man, he blew up at this date.
Yeah, especially after last year.
And then with the 76ers, is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Shoot. Yeah, because he couldn't shoot. He couldn't hit the ocean last year, Ben Simmons. He was awful. They were backing up. They were giving him free throw line shots, and they were under the basket waiting for the rebound. It was not pretty. If they implode,
are you telling them not even to get back on the bus and trust the process again?
If they implode, they better get back in the lottery or trade one of them cats. I mean, like Lucas said, they had Jimmy Butler. They had the team last year. And granted, they ran into the powerhouse of the Toronto Raptors. Who would have thought? But you were a better team. You had Joel Embiid. He folded. You get your butt in the block and put it in the bucket.
Mhm.
You over here trying to shoot threes like you're some guard. Use your body, dunk on some people, and get on out of there. They just want to play too cute. They want to be flashy. Ben Simmons wants to be the next LeBron James, but he needs to pick which hand he wants to shoot with first. Is he left-handed or right-handed? He's over here saying he's ambidextrous. Well, use the other hand because the left hand ain't shooting right. It's just bad. Don't get on the bus if
just
you
know
get
your
first
game,
rounded.
right?
Yep.
Exactly.
Agreed.
All right, as we end this podcast up, I want to thank you guys for joining me on this very first edition of the RosterLock podcast, looking at this NBA preview. Of course, we briefly touched on it, but next week we'll be diving into a little more juicier slates, some player pools that we're interested in, and it's going to get a lot more interesting. We'll also be starting some football podcasts as it gets a little closer. Assuming everything is fine and dandy, we're just going to leave it at that and not get into any further can of worms with that. So do you guys have anything to add either for this podcast itself or what we're looking at here in the future?
Go play PGA DFS. Join me in the sweat. But go to budgetslates.com, check out our lineups, follow us on Twitter, and stay in touch.
What was your net or your multiplier last week?
I 10x last week on
fantasy
in
10x.
both sides. So it was a good weekend after I was almost had an anxiety attack. So 10x is good. I'm full force in it this week. I'm addicted, and I'm gonna be right in the same anxiety levels day one. I need to get better.
Hey, log on to Budget Slates. Get yourself some tools and some knowledge, and you won't have to stay up and get all stressed out about that.
Exactly. I will feel better. You will feel better when you win the money.
Anything to add?
No, not now. I mean, just to add that, we will be adding a little bit of a sports book and adding picks of the day for anyone who also not only does DFS but happens to do sportsbook gambling as well, where we'll try to help out with some bets that we think are locks of the day, maybe some underdogs of the day for all sports from MLB, NHL, NBA, and football. Sports are back, baby.
That's what we like to hear. Hey, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on the RosterLock podcast, edition number 1, numero uno. Thanks again, guys, and have a great day.
See you.
See you guys.